All right, so we're diving into the world of metallurgy today, specifically getting you prep for an interview for a metallurgist role.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, and luckily we have a ton of great resources from RoleCatcher to help us out. We've got their career guides, interview guides, and even some insights into how AI is impacting hiring these days.
Oh, wow. The whole package.
Yeah, so think of this deep dive as your shortcut to metallurgist interview success. But first, I think we should paint a clear picture of what a metallurgist actually does.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so pulling up RoleCatcher's career guide here. It says that metallurgists work with a variety of metals, right?
Yeah, a variety is right. They work with iron, steel, zinc, copper, aluminum, and I'm sure many more.
Wow, it sounds like they're the ultimate metal experts. So they don't just work with metals, right? They kind of have to speak their language, like
Mm.
how to extract them, process them, blend them into alloys, shape them for different uses.
You got it. And even how to research them, constantly pushing the boundaries of what's possible with metals.
Okay, so that's super interesting. Now, the guide also mentions that they're involved in a bunch of different industries,
Oh, yeah, tons.
like everything from aerospace to electronics.
Right.
So it seems like a pretty glamorous job, right? But RoleCatcher's guide also has a section on work environment that gives a bit of a reality check.
Yeah, definitely.
It mentions potential exposure to hazardous materials, noisy and dusty settings.
Exactly. And the need for strict safety protocols. So think goggles, gloves, respirators, the whole 9 yards.
Okay, so safety is key. So it's not all gleaming labs and futuristic factories, but definitely a field with some grit.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, before we get into the interview questions, can we touch on RoleCatcher's AI tools?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It seems like these tools can be super helpful for job seekers.
Well, it's like having a personal career coach in your pocket. It analyzes job descriptions, pinpoints the skills they're looking for, and then helps you tailor your CV and interview answers to highlight those things.
Wow, that's super smart.
Yeah, and it helps you to really beat the bots and get noticed by those recruiters.
Okay, so are you ready to dive into some interview questions?
Absolutely, let's do it.
Awesome. All right, so first up, describe your experience with metallurgical testing and analysis.
Okay, so that seems pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah, but I'm sure it's not as simple as just listing off every test you've ever done.
You're telling me they're not just looking for a list. They want you to showcase your understanding of why these tests are done, what kind of insights they provide, and how you can actually connect the theory to real-world practice.
Okay, so instead of just saying, I've done tensile testing, I should talk about a time when I used tensile testing to solve a specific problem or make a decision.
Exactly. Give him a picture and maybe brush up on some of those specific techniques mentioned in the guide, like tensile testing, hardness testing, metallography, just to be safe.
Okay, great advice.
Yeah.
Now, I'm betting there's some sneaky follow-up questions hiding behind this one.
Oh, yeah, almost definitely.
Like what should I be prepared for?
Well, they might ask about the limits of certain testing methods, or when you would choose one technique over another. And don't forget about the pros and cons of each method.
Okay, so I've got to be ready to think on my feet.
That's right.
All right, next question. How do you approach problem solving in a metallurgical context?
Ooh, this one feels like they're trying to peek inside my brain.
It is a bit like that, isn't it? They
Okay.
want to see those gears turning, so walk them through it step by step. Do you gather data first, analyze patterns, brainstorm different solutions, weigh the pros and cons of each? Whatever your process is, be clear and structured about it and relate it all back to metallurgy.
Okay, so instead of just saying, I'm a good problem solver, I should be ready with a real-world example.
Exactly. Like that time you had to troubleshoot a production issue or maybe figure out why a batch of metal was failing quality control.
Yeah, and don't forget all those little details that show you're thinking like a metallurgist.
That's right, like the specific tools you used or how you considered the unique properties of that metal. Got it. Okay, next up is describe your experience with materials characterization techniques.
Okay, full disclosure, I had to Google that one. So it's basically like being a metal detective, right?
You got it.
Yeah.
Uncovering the secrets hidden inside a material, figuring out what it's made of, how it's structured, and how that impacts its properties.
So it's all about using those high-tech tools to really get to know a material.
Exactly.
So for this question, I should be ready to discuss specific techniques, the instruments I've used, maybe even some cool examples of how I've used those techniques to analyze different metals.
Exactly. But don't be surprised if they dig a little deeper and ask you why you chose a certain technique. It shows that you really understand your stuff.
Got it.
Yeah.
It's all about choosing the right tool for the job. All right, next question. Have you ever worked with exotic materials? And if so, what was your experience? Now, this is where things get interesting.
Oh, yeah. I love this question. It's like, tell me about the coolest metal you've ever met. Bring on the shape memory alloys, the superconductors, the stuff they use in spaceships. Let's hear about the really out there stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Let your passion shine through on this one. But remember to stick to the facts, keep it genuine.
Okay, passion, yes. Tall tales, no. Got it. All right, moving on to a slightly more serious one. How do you ensure compliance with quality standards in your work?
Yeah, this one is super important.
Because a tiny error with metal can have some pretty big consequences, right?
Absolutely. They want to see that you're careful, that you understand why the rules are there, and how you actively apply those rules in your work.
So don't just say, I follow the rules.
Right. Talk about specific quality management systems you've used, or even ISO standards.
And concrete examples are always a good idea, right?
Always. Maybe describe a time you had to go above and beyond to ensure compliance. Show them you really care about doing things right.
Okay, question number 6. How do you stay up to date with new materials and technologies in the field of metallurgy? They're really hitting us with the, are you a lifelong learner questions today.
They want to see that you're curious and that you're proactive.
So don't just say, I read industry journals.
Nope, be specific. Which journals? What conferences have you been to? Any websites or online resources you rely on?
Oh, and the career guide actually mentions some great resources like metallurgical and materials transactions, TMS, ASM. Those are good ones to drop.
Absolutely. It shows that you're plugged into the community and genuinely interested in what's new and innovative.
Okay, next question. Describe your experience with failure analysis. This one sounds kind of scary.
It can be, but it's a chance to show that you learn from your mistakes. Nobody's perfect.
Right, failure is a part of life, and metallurgy is no exception.
Exactly. So don't try to hide your failures. Talk about a time you messed up, what you learned from it, and how it made you a better metallurgist.
Okay, so turn a negative into a positive. That's a good strategy. Okay, question number 8. How do you approach project management in a metallurgical context? This one's a bit broad, isn't it?
It is, but it's all about showing you're organized and can handle complex projects. And remember, metallurgical projects can involve a lot of moving parts and people.
Yeah, lots of research, testing, production, often with tight deadlines. So should I talk about my specific project management style?
Yeah. Do you use Agile, Waterfall?
Yeah.
What tools do you use to stay on track? How do you communicate with your team?
Right, because a metallurgist rarely works alone.
Exactly. You've got to be a team player.
Okay, question number 9. Describe your experience with heat treatment processes. Now, this one feels like it's testing my core metallurgical knowledge.
It is. It's one of the most important processes in metallurgy, using controlled heating and cooling to change the properties of a metal.
Like its strength, hardness, all that stuff. So I should be ready to talk about different types of heat treatments.
Definitely. Like annealing, hardening, tempering. Explain the purpose of each one, the temperatures involved, the effects on the metal, and of course, give them some real-world examples of how you've applied those techniques.
Okay, so lots of specifics.
Yep.
All right, last question for this round. How do you ensure safety in a metallurgical laboratory? This one's a no-brainer, right? Safety first.
Absolutely. But they don't just want to hear safety is important.
Right.
They want specifics. How do you handle molten metals? What about corrosive chemicals? Heavy machinery? What protocols do you follow to keep yourself and everyone else safe?
So it's not just about knowing the rules, it's about living them.
Exactly.
Wow, that was a marathon of interview questions. I'm kind of exhausted now.
Me too. But hopefully we gave everyone listening some good stuff to think about.
Yeah, I think now that we know what they're really looking for, those questions don't seem so scary anymore.
Right. And don't forget, RoleCatcher's AI tools are there to help every step of the way.
All right, so before we move on to talking about career advancement, can we rewind a bit and talk more about how the AI works?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because I know a lot of people might be hesitant to trust a computer program with something as important as their job search. So how does it actually work?
Well, think of it like this. It's trained on a massive amount of data, like tons of job descriptions and successful resumes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it learns to recognize patterns in the language that employers use, and then it can help you tailor your own CV and interview answers to match those patterns.
So it's not just about randomly plugging in keywords.
No, it's way more sophisticated than that. It's about understanding the nuances of how to present your skills and experience in a way that hiring managers will actually appreciate.
Okay, so it's like having a secret decoder ring for the job market.
Exactly. It helps you to speak the language of recruiters.
Awesome. So we've talked about how to tackle some tough interview questions. Now let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Now, how to build a successful career in metallurgy. What does RoleCatcher's Guide have to say about that?
Let's see. Here we go. So it says here that even after you land the job, it's important to keep learning and growing.
That makes sense. Metallurgy is a field that's always evolving.
Absolutely. It's like climbing a mountain. You reach base camp, but there's always another peak to conquer.
I like that analogy. So where do we even begin with this climbing? The guide has a section called Getting Started. Maybe that's a good place. It seems like they really emphasize hands-on experience, even for those who are fresh out of college.
Oh, for sure. Theoretical knowledge is great, but nothing beats actually doing it. Like, you can read all about heat treating steel, but until you've felt that heat, seen the metal transform, that's where the real learning happens.
Yeah, you got to get your hands dirty, literally. So internships, those are like golden tickets then, a chance to apply all that book knowledge to real-world situations.
Exactly. Plus, you build your network. You might discover a niche you really love. It's like test driving a car before you buy it.
And even if you can't land a formal internship, the guide suggests volunteering in research labs or at metal processing plants.
Right. Any exposure to the field can give you a leg up.
So let's say you've got some experience, you're ready to take your career to the next level. What does RoleCatcher recommend for the more seasoned metallurgist?
Well, one path is going for advanced degrees, a master's, or even a PhD.
That makes sense. But what about those of us who aren't really the academic type?
Oh, there are definitely other options. Certifications are a great way to showcase your expertise. The guide mentions the CME Certified Metallurgical Engineer and the CWI Certified Welding Inspector.
Okay, whoa, those acronyms. Can we break those down a bit for those who might not be familiar?
Of course. So the CME basically validates your deep knowledge of metallurgy. It's like a seal of approval saying, hey, this person knows their stuff.
So it could open doors to more senior roles, consulting, maybe even expert witness testimony?
Exactly. It shows you can apply your knowledge to those really complex situations. And then the CWI is all about welding, making sure those welds are top-notch quality and safe.
Which is crucial for so many industries, right? Bridges, pipelines, airplanes.
Absolutely. So if you're a metallurgist with a passion for welding, or you work in an industry where welding is key, that CWI can really boost your career.
Okay, so certifications check. Now, there's one thing that really surprised me in the guide. They mentioned the importance of reading comprehension.
Yeah, it seems a bit unexpected, right? But it makes sense when you think about it.
I mean, I get that reading is important, but 68% important for a metallurgist?
Well, metallurgists are constantly dealing with all sorts of technical documents, research papers, industry standards, those super detailed material specifications.
And complex reports, don't forget those.
Right, you got to be able to quickly understand and analyze all that information.
It's like being a detective, right? Piecing together clues from all those reports and documents.
Exactly. And if you can't read effectively, you might miss crucial details that could impact your work or even lead to some serious problems down the line.
Okay, I'm definitely convinced. Reading comprehension check. Now, you mentioned that RoleCatcher can help tailor our interview answers and CVs, using AI. Can we dive a bit deeper into how that actually works?
Sure thing. RoleCatcher's AI is trained on tons of data, like job descriptions, successful resumes, you name it. So it learns what works, what catches the eye of recruiters.
Oh, wow. So it's not just some random algorithm spitting out generic advice.
Not at all. It can analyze your CV and suggest specific improvements, maybe rephrase certain bullet points, use stronger action verbs.
Ah, so it's like having a personal editor for your career.
Exactly. And it can do the same for interview answers. Let's say you're asked about staying up to date on new technologies.
Right. Instead of just listing all the journals I read, the AI might suggest I highlight specific breakthroughs that are relevant to the job I'm applying for.
Exactly. It might even help you frame your answer in a way that shows enthusiasm, that eagerness to learn.
So it's not just about the skills, it's about showcasing that passion.
Oh, right.
Right, making your answers more engaging and memorable.
You got it. It's about presenting yourself in the best possible light, leveraging technology to make your application shine.
Okay, so we've talked about experience, certifications, reading comprehension, and even AI-powered tools.
Yeah.
It's like we've built a whole arsenal for career success.
I like that, an arsenal.
But before we wrap this up, I do want to touch on the softer skills.
Yeah.
Communication, teamwork, problem solving, those things. How important are those for metallurgists?
Oh, they're crucial. Remember, metallurgists don't work in a vacuum. They're part of teams, they collaborate with engineers, they communicate with clients.
They present findings, they write reports.
Exactly. Being able to express yourself clearly, both verbally and in writing, is just as important as knowing the technical stuff.
So it's not enough to be a metal whisperer. You have to be able to communicate those whispers to others.
I love that. And teamwork goes without saying. Metallurgical projects can be really complex. They need different perspectives, different skill sets.
You got to be able to work together, share ideas, and maybe even handle some disagreements along the way.
For sure. And problem solving, that's basically the heart of metallurgy, isn't it? Whether it's troubleshooting a production issue or developing a brand new alloy, you're constantly using those problem solving muscles.
So how do we showcase these softer skills in an interview? It's not always easy to give concrete examples like we did with the technical stuff.
That's true. Storytelling can be really effective here. Instead of saying, I'm a team player, describe a time when you had to work with a diverse group of people, maybe navigate some conflicts to achieve a shared goal.
So give them a specific example that demonstrates your ability to collaborate effectively.
Exactly. And for communication, maybe talk about a time when you had to explain complex technical information to a non-technical audience.
So instead of just saying, I'm a good communicator,
Yeah.
I show them through a real-life example.
You got it. The more engaging and specific your stories are, the more they'll stick with the interviewer.
And it's not just about showcasing skills. It's about revealing who you are, how you approach challenges.
It's about giving them a sense of your personality, your work ethic, your values.
Right, because they're not just looking for a set of skills, they're looking for a person who's going to be a good fit for their team.
Absolutely. So be authentic, let your passion shine through, and show them that you're not just a metallurgist, but a valuable asset to their organization.
Okay, I'm loving this. Now, before we move on, I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier, sustainability in metal production. The guide mentions it briefly, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on how this is impacting the future of the field.
That's a great question, and honestly, it's something every aspiring metallurgist should be thinking about. The world is waking up to the environmental impact of, well, everything, and metal production is no exception.
So this means there's a growing demand for things like recycled metals, more efficient extraction methods, and the development of new, eco-friendly materials.
Exactly. Sustainability is becoming a core competency, not just a buzzword. It's about understanding the entire life cycle of a metal, from mine to product to, hopefully, back to being recycled.
So for someone just starting out in this field, understanding sustainability is crucial. It's about designing alloys that are recyclable, finding ways to minimize waste and energy use.
And researching those alternative materials that can reduce our reliance on those resources that are, not so great for the planet.
Wow, that's so cool. So if you're passionate about the environment and you love working with metals, this could be a dream career.
Absolutely. It's a field with a bright future, and those who embrace sustainability are going to be leading the charge, shaping how we use and reuse metals for years to come.
That's inspiring. Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this part of our deep dive. In the final part, we'll be tackling one last thought-provoking question, one that wasn't explicitly covered in the RoleCatcher guide, but I think it's something everyone should consider as they embark on their metallurgical journey.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it. All right, welcome back for the final part of our metallurgist interview prep.
I'm ready.
We've covered a lot, the technical skills, the certifications, those tricky interview questions.
Yeah, and we even talked about sustainability, which, by the way, is super important for the future of the field.
Totally. But there's one more thing I want to touch on. It's a bit more, nuanced.
Okay, I'm all ears.
It's about adaptability.
Adaptability.
Okay. Yeah, because we've talked about all the things you need to know to be a metallurgist. But the world of metals is constantly changing. New technologies, new materials, new challenges pop up all the time. So it's not just about mastering what we know now. It's about being able to learn and adapt throughout your entire career.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, think about it. Even in the last few years, we've seen huge advancements in 3D printing, nanomaterials, even AI being used to design new materials. Who knows what the next decade will bring, right?
Yeah, things change so quickly. So the metallurgists who really thrive will be the ones who are curious, adaptable, open to those new ways of doing things. You've got to have a growth mindset.
Exactly. And it's not just about the tech stuff either. You might start your career in a lab, but then find yourself drawn to manufacturing.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe you specialize in one type of metal, but then an amazing opportunity comes up to work with something totally new.
So you've got to be flexible. The only constant is change, right?
That's it. And in metallurgy, that change can happen really fast.
So how do we prepare for that? How do we cultivate that adaptability?
Well, first of all, never stop learning. Read those industry journals, go to conferences, talk to other professionals in the field.
Yeah, make connection.
And take online courses, anything to stay at the forefront of the field.
Stay sharp.
Exactly. And don't just limit yourself to metallurgy. Explore other related fields like materials science or even data analysis. The more you know, the more adaptable you'll be.
It's like having a whole toolbox full of skills.
Exactly. And don't forget about those softer skills too. Your communication, your teamwork, your problem-solving abilities. Those are the skills that can help you no matter what challenges come up.
Yeah, those are the foundations.
Right. So as you start your metallurgical journey, remember, keep learning, stay curious, and be open to new possibilities.
That's fantastic advice.
The world of metals is full of amazing things just waiting to be discovered.
I'm excited for everyone listening.
Me too! And don't forget, RoleCatcher is there to help you every step of the way, from finding the perfect job to acing that interview.
Yeah, those AI tools are pretty amazing. And on that note, I think it's time for us to wrap things up.
Yeah, sounds good.
So to all the aspiring metallurgists out there, good luck on your journey. Go make some awesome metal magic.
Yes, we're rooting for you.
And that's a wrap on our deep dive into the world of metallurgy. Thanks for listening.